You're listening to WCOM LP 103.5 FM Carborough and Chapel Hill. It's a Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, and that only means one thing. It's time for another round of Snarky Faith with your host, Stuart Deloney. This is a space where we irreverently wrestle through life, culture, and spirituality, all with our heads in the clouds, our tongues in our cheeks, our hearts in our sleeves, and our feet on the ground. At Snarky Faith, the questions or even the answers are never the point. It's all about the conversation. So here's your host, Stuart Deloney.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another round of Snarky Faith Radio. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney. Welcome to another week here in the Snark Dome? I don't know. Just welcome to Snarky Faith Radio this week. And here's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to see if I can hold to this, because this is going to be, hopefully, for the most part, as much as I can contain myself and be a good little boy for Christmas. I'm not going to mention the name of who we shall not mention today. We will not mention 45 today. But, in order for me to curb this, in order for me to get this off my chest, how about we just begin with a little quote from a good old G.K. Chesterton, and I'll let that be all that we say about 45 today. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Okay. So Chesterton said this: when an anarchist is poor, he breaks the law. When he is rich, he makes them. In neither case does he ever dream of obeying them. All I'm going to say, things are happening. Hopefully Santa's listening to my list. Oh, Muller Claus, do. Okay, that's it. I got it off my chest. But what I said earlier is what we're going to do. Today, I'm going to sit down with Adam McLean, and Adam McLean is going to tell us a unique story about how he got involved with helping out down on the U.S. southern border, specifically near Tijuana. Adam's story, it will be, I feel like it's inspiring for all of us who are kind of, at times, armchair advocates. And we will delve deeper into that story as we go on. And the cool part about it is you out there, what should we call you? Snark Nation, Snarkers? I don't even really care. But folks that are listening and have ears, that are either listening to us on broadcast or podcast right now, you're going to have an ability to be able to help what's happening down at the southern border in an easy, tangible way. And we will get to that conversation with Adam McLean in the second part of our show. But as we start off in our show this hour, I want to walk through some good news. Kind of. We'll make our way through some good news. No Christian crazy this week, because we're going good. We're going to be good little boys and girls here on the air, as much as we can handle it. Or this intro to our show may just be a big fat ball of hypocrisy of me setting goals and not fit. No, I actually think we're going to talk about, this is going to be the good episode. This is going to be the episode where we talk about good stuff that's happening, inspiring stuff that's happening, stuff that continues to give us hope in humanity. So first bit of good news. If anybody is interested, we've had director and documentarian Christopher Maloney on the show twice now, speaking about his documentary, In God We Trump. And right now, if you have Amazon Prime, it is free to watch on Amazon Prime. It's a wonderful documentary, and if you want a little bit of snarkiness in it, I'm in it too. Wow. I don't make any money off this, so I'm just throwing this out there for folks who are interested. And if you don't have Amazon Prime, guess what? You can buy it and watch it. It's a great documentary that goes through the process of kind of like how did evangelical Christians kind of become part of the cult of him who we will not mention today. I did mention his name in the title of it, but it's a title. It doesn't count against me. I swear it doesn't. I was only quoting a title. But yes, In God We Trump is available on Amazon Prime for you to view. It's a great documentary. You should check it out. First bit of good news for you in this season. Second bit of good news. And I found this absolutely fascinating. And this is one of those cases when I scour through the news to be able to find stuff to talk about here on the show. Most of the time, it's stuff that we get to mock and make fun of in the Christian Crazy of the week. But this is actually a wonderful story. This is one of those stories that I love to see, and we don't see very often because guess what? It's either not reported very often or most likely doesn't happen very often. But this is a story about people who actually take their faith seriously. So there's a Protestant church called The Hague in the Netherlands, and they had heard that a refugee family was facing imminent deportation. And what they have done has been something that is so beautiful. And I wish it was getting more press about what's happening. Because what they have been doing is they have had a nonstop church service going on since October 26th. And hey, that's a day after my birthday. Maybe this is my birthday present. Oh, thank you. Because, wait, do Christians make everything about themselves? We already did a show on that. Stop it, Stuart. Bad Stuart. No, because, and this is coming from the New York Times in an article called, To Protect Migrants from the Police, a Dutch Service Never Ends. And it's by Patrick Kingsley. And I'm going to quote from this, under an obscure Dutch law, police may not disrupt a church service to make an arrest. So, for the past 6 weeks, immigration officials have been unable to enter Bethel Church to seize 5 members of the Tamrazian family, Armenian refugees who fled to the sanctuary and to escape the deportation order. The article continues saying this: the service, which began in late October, was a little notice, last grasp measure by a small group of local ministers, and is now a national movement attracting clergy members and congregations from the villages and cities across the Netherlands. More than 550 pastors from about 20 denominations have rotated through Bethel Church, a non-stop. Now, get this. This is non-stop. And in many ways, this would be my... Again, me making this about me. This is like in a different context. This probably sounds like a horror movie, having to be in a church service nonstop for 6 weeks. But this is not a horror story. This is a story of people actually doing something that would look a lot like Jesus. What? Huh? Churches acting like Jesus? I know. Well, hold on. Hold your horses, folks. This isn't America. It's the Netherlands. Oh, okay. But really, so let me continue quoting them there. More than 550 pastors from 20 denominations have rotated through Bethel Church, a nonstop service, all in the name of protecting this vulnerable family. And this is a beautiful story of people coming together for people that were refugees, that were fleeing, but that were denied citizenship in the Netherlands. This is what Christianity looks like at its best, on its best day. Sadly, we see Christianity on its worst day, which it feels like in America is most days. And this also comes from an area, because it may be easy for you to say, oh, this Netherlands culture is different there. But if you recall what's happening in Europe, as in the rest of the world, Christianity's relevance is waning. And what we are seeing rise here in America, this idea of xenophobia and nationalism, is happening there too. But this is a beautiful sight of the gospel, that these people, these pastors, these congregants are 24/7 rotating through and making this service happen to protect a family. This is the beauty of what faith should look like. This is absolutely beautiful. And it is in my heart, especially in this season when you'll see most churches in America ramping up for the big production, for spending tons of money because, hey, guess what? Hey, insider from a pastor and a person that has worked within churches. This is like the World Series. Christmas is like the World Series or the Super Bowl, along with Easter. Those are the two big days where churches will spend ungodly amounts of money to run church services. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, several of them, all because, hey, it's the National Jesus Holiday Day. Which again, the Advent season begins with Black Friday. Oh gosh, I'm supposed to be good. I'm supposed to talk good. I'm supposed to be less snarky today. Okay, talking myself through this, talking myself down. Okay. But yes. They have worshipers that are showing up. They have pastors that are showing up on a rotating basis. This is what Christianity should be about. Protecting those that are marginalized, protecting those that are forgotten, protecting those that society has said, we don't want you. This is a picture of the gospel here. And this is one of those things, especially as we're moving through December, this is something that actually gives me hope. And I hope it continues to give you hope. And I don't know how this is going to end. But I will be watching and I will be hoping and I will be like sending loves and thoughts and prayers their way because this is beautiful. And this should be what Christianity looks like here. And as you know, we're going to be talking about this hour, we're going to be talking about what's going on down at the southern border in the United States. And I also stumbled onto this. And so this is from the LifeWay research group. Another article that I'm pulling up here, and the title almost says everything here. We'll unpack it somewhat. And the title of their article is that churches are twice as likely to fear refugees than to help them. And this is amongst Protestant churches that they pulled here. And so here's like the initial question they had asked. 2 Protestant pastors. And here's the statement. You either agree, disagree, or are not sure. And this is, again, we're back to America here. We're back to America the way we do things. Jesus, and he loves his guns as much as he loves God. This kind of America that we're in. And the question they asked them was this. My church has a sense of fear about global refugees coming to the United States. Now, 50% said they disagree, that their church doesn't. But 40% said they do agree. 6% said not sure. And we begin to see this. Again, I'd mentioned earlier, nationalism, xenophobia. See, all of this stuff has permeated what's happening around us and what is going on here. And when you have churches that are acting out of fear and self-interest, you get folks that have no compassion for what's going on at our southern border. You have churches that have no compassion for what's going on inside of our borders, especially when it comes to the LGBTQ crowd as well. And the sad thing is this. They are pulling the pastors of the church. The mouthpiece, the people that cultivate the sermon of the week. Those guys, yeah. Those guys, where we have 44% agree that their church has a fear about immigrants and refugees in their church. And in the article, they quote Ed Stetzer, kind of the LifeWay asshat of the group, saying this. Pastors believe the scripture tells Christians to care for refugees and foreigners, yet many admit their church is not involved in such ministry. And if you continue to pull back the veneer of their questioning, which again, I'm going to give you, like LifeWay is very much in the center of the Christian industrial complex, okay? So that is their vested interest. So they'd asked these pastors a follow-up question. Which of the following best describes what your church has described about getting involved in caring for refugees? And locally, and they had said, 72% said they've not even discussed it with their congregations. 8% said they're currently involved. 9% said they desire to get involved. And 9% have said they decided not to get involved. And again, you've got the 3% that said, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm only the pastor of this place. But like when I continue to look back upon this, and this is what strikes me the most in all of this insanity, that 72% have not talked about this within their church. They're not talking about this. This is a crisis that we are seeing on the news on a regular basis, and they're not even discussing this with their congregation. When we look back to that church in the Netherlands, they are putting their faith in action right now in a very tangible way to protect a family. But yet here in the United States, when we see a crisis happening, what are the churches doing by and large? Well, right now is not a good time. We got to get ready for Christmas. The Christmas extravaganza. Jingle jam. We got to get all these things in and push it through. Refugees, it's, they really don't fit into this time of year because we're too busy celebrating Jesus to act like Jesus. Let that sink in just a little bit. We're too busy right now. And again, I'm putting words in their mouth. But when you begin to see stats like this, when they're polling pastors, this is sick. This is disgusting. And they are too busy celebrating Jesus to be Jesus, especially when we have a humanitarian crisis going on at our borders right now. This is sick. This is sad. And if you don't believe me, and some people may say, well, good for LifeWay for at least asking the question. Yeah, but guess what? They had also come out with this poll this week that their hard-hitting journalistic polling that they're doing here on LifeWay Research. They came out with this one. Most Protestant churches still abstain when it comes to alcohol. Asking congregants, do you drink alcohol? 41% said yes. 59% said no, and then they go into whatever they do, trying to look into the numbers because, again, well, you really need to know what the churches feel about booze. During this season, they're going to get a little bit too much, a little too tipsy going on here. We can't have that here in our church. LifeWay Research, you take 1 step forward and about 5,000 steps back. Oh, wait, that kind of works in the way that most of what LifeWay wants to do is roll us back probably 100 years. That's kind of how LifeWay works. Yeah. We may need to have a whole different show on just the sins and disgust of money and LifeWay. But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go to something good. I promised you this. Now, I sat down, and this has been kind of, and I talk a little about this in the interview, but I want to just unpack this a little bit more before we hop into it. Adam McLean's the guy I've known. He's hung out at my house. He slept in my house. And he's a guy that has worked kind of within youth ministry, and he's a prominent voice within the youth ministry within American Christianity. And Adam is a good dude. And as what led me to kind of just ask him to be on the show was this. I'd only been casually seeing what was happening through his Facebook feed, where Adam lives in San Diego and would begin to just question what was happening down at the border, And he was even saying, I'm tired of sitting and doing nothing. And I brought him on the show to talk about what happens when you get tired of doing nothing and you want to do something. Where your faith tells you, I just can't sit idly by and let people suffer. I can't sit idly by and just continue to let these atrocities happen. And Adam did something. Adam stepped up and he did something. And let's go ahead and let him do this. Let's go ahead and hop into our interview. I think you're going to enjoy it. I enjoyed it. It was a great time sitting down and talking with him about what's happening down at the U.S. southern border. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into our talk with Adam McLean. Here we go. Well, I'm sitting here with Adam McLean. Now, Adam McLean is a partner in the youth cartel, so Adam is a name in the world of youth ministry, but I brought Adam on today to be on the show to really be able to kind of talk to us about something that's going on. Anyone heard anything in the news about what's happening in the U.S. southern border? If you haven't, you suck, and if you haven't, you will, hopefully after this hour. So Adam, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And so I choose typically people that I like to bring on the show or folks that have a good perspective, and B, people who have slept on an inflatable mattress in my house. It's a
Then I'm
very niche
qualified.
program,
Yeah.
Adam. It's a very
Yeah.
niche
Awesome.
program. It's basically my relatives. No, I'm joking. But no, but Adam, thank you. Thank you for being on the show. And just kind of truth be told, I feel like I've known you, especially social media wise. We've hung out like once or twice, and I've been somewhat kind of just following what's been going on with you lately. Not quite stalker levels. It's not like it's not in the red zone, but no. But as I remember this, and I know I'm kind of teasing around what we're going to talk about today, but but I remember this, and I was actually looking back over social media. I remember this all was as this was going down. You can correct me, but I remember November 16th. You said, "My heart is broken, or my heart is heavy about the situation of the border."
Right.
And then you go down and visit what's happening down at the border, especially with the migrant caravan and folks coming in. So we've seen tons of coverage on the news, but it's not always eyewitness stuff that's going on, and especially what's begun to happen. We really saw the rhetoric ramp up about the migrant caravan moving around the midterms. We've kind of dropped it now because it's not politically advantageous anymore. But you were a person that saw a problem, decided to look into it, and has begun to act into it. So can you tell us a little about your journey and how you stepped into all of this?
Yeah, I mean, probably like a lot of people followed how essentially they were being used as pawns for a political rallying point for one party, and was kind of irritated by that because that's kind of how we treat the world's poor. And so I just started paying attention at that level and was kind of annoyed about it. And then once they arrived in Tijuana, it became clear to me that the city of Tijuana was not ready at that moment to receive the volume of people who were arriving, and kind of B, just that there wasn't there just had to be a way to help alleviate the suffering because I've been exposed to other I guess, for lack of better terms, refugee situations. So I've been exposed to that. I remember being in refugee camps or in camps shortly after the earthquake in Haiti, and just kind of remembering the chaos that was there, and so on and so forth. So I knew that was what was coming to Tijuana, and it was hard to watch. It was kind of like a NASCAR event, like it was coming and you could see it, and then boom, it happened. And I tried to stay on the sidelines. I really, really did. Tried to not get involved and to trust that, just to trust that it was all going to somehow magically resolve. And it became clear the week of Thanksgiving that wasn't going to be the case. So, yeah.
So you're seeing this happen. It's kind of like, almost like watching like a train wreck in like slow motion. You're just seeing all this coming together, and then you decide to do something. So what were your first steps in this?
Well, first I was invited to attend a gathering put together for San Diego area faith leaders that was basically at the border, right across the border in Tijuana, like maybe 200 yards from the actual crossing. And we sat for a day and basically got a briefing. We got a briefing from a theological perspective, kind of somebody came in and just kind of painted a picture of why they thought this was happening from like a Christian perspective. And then on top of that, a woman who's in charge of there's like a consortium of organizations, and there's a council that oversees that. And so a woman from that came and gave like an actual briefing of how many people are there, what their needs are, so on and so forth. But even part of that was I left very frustrated because we never actually went and saw the problem. I went to TJ to learn about the problem, got a briefing about the problem, but didn't meet anybody. Didn't even get access to know where to go. And so, over that weekend is kind of when things just started spiraling out of control from both a political perspective as well as more and more people were coming. When I went to that initial briefing, it was, I want to say, in the 3,000 range, and then they started receiving 700 to 1,000 people a day. And we had heard during the briefing that there were a total of 9,500, and I was like, this is the scale of this is just it's enormous. So that was kind of the inciting moment. I remember on Facebook I posted like, "Hey, I have sat around and done nothing as long as I humanly can, but now I have to do something." And then the next day I went on a mission to find him.
And so, okay, so you've got the briefing, you go on a mission to find them, and then how did you get involved with all of this too? Like, how did you get I mean, you're like on the level. I'm not even wanting to tease exactly what's happening with you and your Amazon wish list yet. We'll get to that.
Yes.
But yeah. So what were those first steps for you?
So literally the first step was, I kind of posted about it on social media, and then and on Nextdoor, which is like our neighborhood social network thing, which is usually lost dogs and cats. But I posted, there was actually already a conversation going on of somebody bringing clothing down, and I kind of had a little sidebar conversation with that individual. And so, I just posted up, I think on Facebook that, hey, I'm going down on Monday. I have no idea what we're going to do. My mission is to go find where the migrant camp is and see what they need. Mm-hmm. And so that was really the first step. As we went down on a Monday, we walked across the border, and it took us maybe 2 hours, because it's not like it was labeled on Google Maps as like migrant camp. So it just took us a while to essentially follow people that looked like they might be going to the shelter to finally find the shelter. And then from there, we just scoped it out, started talking to people on the ground, and I found out where they were accepting donations, and then just found out exactly what was needed. Went home, posted that list, and that's how it all started.
And with all of this, when we're talking about like how it all started, for folks that don't know about all of this too, I mean, you started with this idea of posting a list.
Yes.
And how did that evolve?
Well, I mean, honestly, we posted it for the neighbors, because there were people in the neighborhood. We live, San Diego's, we're a binational city in a lot of ways. There's 1 million people in San Diego, and there's a little over 1 million people in Tijuana. 300,000 of us cross the border one way or the other for work every day. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we are kind of one city. So there were people that wanted to get involved. So I knew that there were people in my immediate neighborhood that wanted to give, that wanted to get involved somehow, but either didn't know how to cross the border, or didn't have the time, or it was just too much for them to even conceive of. So that's kind of where the list of saying, and I knew, like, it was super important to me that we only brought things that they were actually needing and requesting. Mm-hmm. And so we got that list from the source, from the person receiving the donations, and went home and posted that list on both Facebook and on Nextdoor, and anybody who would listen. And then very quickly somebody said, why don't you set up an Amazon wish list so that we can be involved if we're not in San Diego? So
what has transpired, especially with the outpouring of folks?
Yeah. It's been pretty cool. So pretty much since we started posting that list, 4 or 5 times a day, somebody from Amazon will drop off boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes. And basically all that happens is we have now made contacts with the shelter, with people at the shelter. And every day we say, what is it that you need today? Or what do you need tomorrow? And then I adjust the list every day, and then bring down only the items that they're looking for pretty much every day.
Every day. So this has been a regular occurrence now has this been just almost since Thanksgiving?
It's been, so I think that's been two weeks or so. I've made, a bunch of trips down.
Oh, that's incredible. And so for you, you're seeing stuff happening on the news. You go down and see it. So what's the disconnect? Like, what are you seeing? Give us some eyes, some perspective on what you're seeing.
I mean, it's easy to say that we all know that media has slant, and so that's the truth. I mean, the reality is that what's going on is a humanitarian crisis where multiple parties, for different political reasons, politicized a movement of people, which is part of a larger migration of people, of humans. I think if I heard somewhere that we're seeing the largest migrations of humans in the history of the world, mostly because of cell phones, and they're connected to the internet now, and they see that, hey, I could walk from Syria to Turkey and maybe get to Germany. We're seeing the same thing. People going, this migrant caravan started because of stuff that was spread on social media that says, if you want to move to the United States, if you want to, we're all going to come, we're going to go together, meet at this city on this date, and we'll go. And so that's kind of like the genesis of how it kind of all began. And so, it's almost like activating my social media network the other way, saying, okay, now that they're here and now that they're stuck, what can we do?
Now, are you working with any missions or ministries that are down there in the Tijuana area?
Yeah. So part of the backstory is that one of my functions with the youth cartel is I actually operate as Praying Pelican Missions in Baja. So I'm helping launch short-term missions. We do short-term missions in a very much like a partnership way, not like an old school build a house and leave, but like long-term relationships in Baja already. So I had some of those connections, and our pastor in Ensenada introduced us to some people that I met at those different briefings that I was going to, started pointing me in some directions to work with some churches. And then along the way, we've started basically by bringing items that are needed. We've gotten to know the Nazarene Church in Mexico's response. They're offering a medical tent with the migrant group. So we just got to know people kind of in an organic way, but some of those relationships were existing and some of them are brand new.
Mm. And as you're seeing this, like, are you hearing stories? What are you seeing when you're down there?
Yeah. We are hearing stories. And so, I speak a toddler level of Spanish, but there are, so I can get around. Like today, I was at the pharmacy successfully buying medical items that were needed. And, I can negotiate some of those things. But there's also a lot of people that are part of the caravan that, also speak an elementary level of English. And so I've had conversations with families of, saying, hey, what is it that you're looking for in the United States? And they're, looking for, a lot of people are here, honestly, looking for work, which means that they probably won't make it into the United States through the asylum process. They're just looking for a better life for their family. But we've also run into people, had a family explain to me that they joined the caravan because a gang member came to their house and said, yeah, now that you're paying $200 in rent, you got to basically pay $200 in protection or we're going to kill your family starting next month. And so for him, that was an inciting, like, I got to get my family out of here. Like, I can't do this. And so there's stories like that. There are people who are legitimately fleeing the violence. But yeah, and on the flip side, there's the vast majority, I would say, I gotta be careful how I say that. A lot of people that are a part of the caravan are really here for reasons that will not be approved for an asylum claim. They're here for economic reasons.
And what do you see happening with those folks? The ones that aren't going to be admitted in. They've made it this far. They're here.
Yeah, this is exactly why we have a two-pronged approach. So our first pronged approach is meeting the immediate needs of the relief effort. So making sure that at the migrant shelter they have what they need, and we're bringing medical supplies, we're bringing diapers, we're bringing whatever they need at that moment. But the second whole prong of that is helping to lift up and to get ready a bunch of nonprofit and like basically church-based shelters from the local church in Tijuana who are stepping up and saying, yeah, we think we can take in some of these migrants and help them assimilate into life in Mexico. And maybe they'll eventually, their claim will be heard and they'll go to the United States. But if not, then we'll help them start a life, get a job, get a home, get their kids in school here in Mexico.
And I know that you're working to be able to bring supplies down on a regular basis now. And what is that, like, from what you've seen and what you've learned over this time period, like, where are we at with the need versus the actual aid that is happening down there for people?
Yeah, so I mean, it is emerging. So it's really easy for me to say what's true today, but I mean, even next week, I have no idea what that'll look like. But as of today, a lot of the immediate need, has been met. So, like they're saying, we have a month's worth of food in the warehouse. We have we're not accepting any more blankets or tents or tarps, or we have all of that stuff that we need for the immediate future. Of course, there are still people arriving, so we don't know what that'll look like. We also don't know what the weather will do. So, like, they told me they didn't need any tarps 3 days ago. 2 days ago, it rained really hard. I took a bunch of tarps down just kind of I had a feeling, and a bunch of people were like, I need a tarp over my tent because it's leaking, So there's going to be needs that keep popping up, which is kind of why both the main shelters and then different nonprofits are kind of stockpiling stuff, because you've got several thousand people that are that have some needs that are probably going to continue to need those things well beyond the media caring and people's attention being brought to it. So there's some of that going on. So as of right now, the needs are diminished. So a lot of the shelters are not even accepting of a wide variety of donations. And then for us personally, we've shifted a lot of our relief efforts to just collecting medicine, so that the doctors in the migrant shelter have everything they need.
I think it's brilliant how you set that up to where it's like with being an Amazon wish list, it's something that can evolve and change based on the current need of the time. And I just that has been kind of a brilliant thing that I've been able to see happening.
Yeah, so like yesterday, I was so excited. I got rid of diapers. because everyone's saying we're good on diapers, we're good on baby wipes, we're good on even on feminine hygiene stuff. Like those are just consumables. We know they'll come up again. But for now, they're feeling like we got enough warehouse here where we're good, and that's an exciting thing to hear when you're doing this type of stuff. So.
And so how have things been around your house as well too? Because you're getting you mentioned like shipments several times a day of all of this.
Yeah, it's a little bit much. Like right now, I'm trying to get rid of several hundred Amazon boxes that are in my garage that we're trying to keep dry because there's people who want them for various purposes. And so, it's much more than our recycling people will take. So we have some practical things. So like, and yesterday I was kind of celebrating like, okay, we got rid of diapers. And one of the great things for me selfishly is that's a lot less to store in the garage. And now we're shifting to medicines, which are much smaller. That's just super practical with like space. We live in San Diego where, space is a premium. So we don't like have a giant place to store everything. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, life is operating normally in our house. I'm doing most of this work after I drop the kids off at school at 8:00 in the morning. I'm able to drive to the border. I'm able to get home before I have to pick them up. Fortunately, I'm self-employed, and so I'm able to flex and do what I need to do in order to make this happen to meet these needs.
Well, how has your perspective changed? From when you started just having this kind of like spiritual discontent about this situation to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I can also say, just quite frankly, I was much more ticked off politically than I am today. Like originally, I was like, man, what the Trump administration is doing to these people is unjust and horrible and so on and so forth. And I was really, some of what I was doing was because I was so frustrated that it left me looking for something positive to do. But now I'm kind of don't care about that. I'm much more interested in just flat out meeting the humanitarian need. And I have a feeling that in January, some things are going to change with the new Congress, and that'll kind of alleviate some of the suffering. So I've that's definitely one perspective has changed, is I'm just not as bitter as I was in early November when I first, I was just so annoyed by how they were using this for their own political gain, but not doing anything to end the suffering. So I'm getting involved has definitely has helped shift that perspective to just being like, okay, whatever happens, I'm just here to meet the needs. So.
No, I think that's a really good perspective on that too, because oftentimes, especially when we get frustrated politically, we're kind of angry in the abstract, and then once you begin to go down into a place and be able to just see people and faces, you're like, oh yeah, this political BS doesn't really matter. These people's lives are what matters. These folks that are suffering and seeking a new life and seeking help, they matter.
Yeah, and I mean, plus the more you get involved, this has happened to a community, and so there are just as many opinions that exist in the United States about what's happening in Tijuana. There's locals who are mad that it's happening. There's politicians who are pontificating how they would solve things. There's the mayor who's kind of taking his leading from Trump and trying to vilify them, and so there's all of this going on. And so honestly, I've given up caring about too much about the politics of how it's going, and just going, okay, well, what is it that they need tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So that's been actually has been really helpful and for me personally.
It's probably good for the soul too.
It is, and then honestly, another part of it is giving people who are also frustrated and care. Like the Amazon wish list is perfect for that because it gives you the opportunity to do something. Like you might sit in front of the television or read the articles, and you're just like, what can I actually do? And to be able to send diapers or money for medicine is tangible, and so and it's really I get a front line to it to see like when I delivered medicine on Tuesday, there were people waiting in chairs for the medicine I was bringing that people had donated money for the day before. So it's just when you see that, you're just like, okay, like all the politics doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, no matter the politics, the poor people always pay the price. And in this case, we're alleviating the suffering of the poor.
Well, if people want to get involved, if people want to be able to pitch in, and I will put everything that Adam mentions right now, I will put the links on the website with the show.
Thank you.
But go ahead and what are ways people can get involved?
Well, obviously, your audience doesn't live locally, so you can't just go to Rite Aid and Costco and drop stuff at my house. But if you were in San Diego and want to do that, awesome. We'd love to accept those things. The most practical thing you can do is go to the Amazon wish list. If you're looking to give something, they arrive on one day, and for the most part, in order to keep my garage empty, I'm bringing them as much as I can the next day. And so that's a very tangible thing. And it's, like I said before, we're trying to adjust that list day by day, so we're taking things that they want and that are actually helpful. And the second thing you could do is, honestly, we're working really hard on meeting some of these the needs of building up these other local shelters that'll be there for the long term. And so these 15 or 16 evangelical churches that have popped up and said, yep, we want to become a long-term shelter for migrants because we know that this is the third wave of caravans and there will probably be more. And so we want to be prepared to accept and receive people. That's why we're out raising money right now through Praying Pelican Missions. And that'll give us the ability to come in and instead of Americans doing American things and coming in over the top and saying, we know what we're doing, get out of the way. Instead, we're going to come in and discreetly and quietly say, as we vet local churches and say, okay, what is it that you need so this is sustainable for you? You feel like God has called you to host people in your church and your congregation. That's awesome. That also means that maybe your facility needs to be retrofitted to host people. And in that case, how can we facilitate the funds that are necessary to make that happen? And so that's what we're doing through Praying Pelican Missions. UPS just pulled up, so yeah, so more deliveries and the dogs are barking.
Oh, awesome.
So I mean that right there, like donating those funds is super helpful because it's helping us make it possible to come behind a church and say, we want to help you, get your facility up to building codes or whatever in such a way that you can host families for the next 6 months until their asylum claim is heard or so on and so forth. That takes money. And we know that the best way to do that is to come. It's not to bring in Americans to build stuff, but to provide the materials to help facilitate the permit process, things like that, so that we're benefiting the local economy in how we do work.
Yeah, and so this is the thing I love about what's happening is this is very real. This is very tangible. This is very,
right.
You know what I mean? This isn't like you're giving to a ministry where like half of the funds go to administration fees. This is you're buying diapers, you're buying wood. All of the needs, whether on your wish list or through Praying Pelican Missions, it's going to stuff. And did I read right when I was looking on their website as well too that they're doing matching donations?
Yeah, so they're matching the first $10,000, which is pretty awesome. So far as of today, we're like at $4,500 of that. And so again, like we have an initial goal of trying to get to $20,000. So asking people all over the country to give the first 10,000. Praying Pelican's great, giving the second 10,000, which gets us to 20, and then hopefully we can continue to grow it there as we can meet these partners' needs. Again, so literally, that means going to a church and saying, what is it that vetting them. And on Monday, a pastor told me, look, the only thing we can't really afford right now is our water bill because they were hosting 40 people and their water bill was $260. And he's like, I don't have money for that. And we're like, okay, we got you. If you can continue on and the only difference between you continuing and not continuing is a water bill, we want to help. So that's as practical as it gets, right? So
absolutely. No, I think I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm going to ask you kind of a two-pronged question here.
Sure.
And what do you see happening next? One on the need for aid, and then two, I guess as the situation continues to transpire down there at the border.
Yeah, so I think that we're going to see, as is often the case when a giant disaster happens or a humanitarian crisis, the cowboys, the people like me who are rallying support, or you think about with hurricanes, the Cajun Army or the Cajun Navy or whatever, those people they're not really professional development people, are the initial ones to help. And they're the churches that are going out and getting stuff and so on and so forth. That's the phase that we're in today. And that phase, like I mentioned, is starting to fade a little bit because the bigger organizations, the Red Cross of Mexico, those types of organizations who are very professional and have raised millions and millions of dollars are starting to come in and they're ready. It just takes them a while after a disaster or something like this happens to get there and get ready. and they're starting to come in, and they're really not going to take over in a bad way, but really pick up, where we're going to be able to leave off. And so they're going to be able to meet the needs of that, what I'm describing more as a refugee camp more than anything, for the next 4 or 6 months, in a practical way, as these people sort out their immigration stuff. And like so many of them are going to end up probably settling in the Tijuana area. And so they'll be able to help with that transition as well. So that's kind of where the big picture of where we see it going. But at the same time, we don't know, because everyone is saying that there will be more migrant caravans. And so there's some of what's going on is because there's always been migrants that have come from Central America to the United States. And it's always been an extremely dangerous journey where they if you really read around, you'll quickly learn that tens of thousands of people disappear on that journey. And what they've discovered by doing these caravans is they get in large enough people that'll create media attention, which forces the police to protect them on the 2,000-mile journey. And that protection gets more people here. So, for instance, according to folks that know these things, there were 9,500 people in the caravan, and they lost approximately 100 of them, which of course is horrible. Each person's life is very valuable, but to only lose 100, whereas before you were losing half, is like a new technology. It's like the discovery of the iPhone. Now everybody wants to join. So we're starting to anticipate not only will there be more caravans, but it's quite likely there'll be larger caravans coming.
Well, one last question I just really want to hit up for you for on this. And, as you kind of mentioned earlier, and I was watching this transpire on social media, on your social media, as it was happening, you had this discontent about a situation, then you're like, I just can't sit around and do nothing.
Right.
And I think that hits a lot of people for varying situations that we find ourselves in, whether we're in our community somewhere and there's stuff that bothers us, or there's folks that are hurting, or people that are being marginalized, all that kind of stuff. Like how would you talk people through a process of essentially just getting off your ass and getting involved somewhere?
Here's what I've known for a while, and here's what played out here. Is there's a lot of people who are empathetic that want to join a movement to solve a problem, whether it's in your neighborhood, like currently we have a homeless issue in San Diego in our neighborhood, or so on, whatever that issue is for you. It takes you taking the first step and saying, I'm ready to do something, and then people will follow. That's, at the end of the day, that's what my definition is of leadership is. Leadership is taking people where they otherwise wouldn't go alone. I know these people in my neighborhood are awesome. They were frustrated. They wanted to do something, but it literally took one person saying, okay, I'll drive down every day if you guys drop off stuff at my house. And that's what it takes. And so that's the same thing in your neighborhood, in your community. It takes you stepping up and going, okay, I'm ready to get dirt on my shoes and get involved. And then amazing things will happen. Literally, people are sitting there waiting for somebody else to take the lead. And if you're having that thought, then it's you.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for being able to share what's happening. And as I said earlier, too, we're going to post all these links on the show page as well. Adam, thanks so much. And I will just continue to say just good luck with what you're doing, and just continue being awesome.
Thank you. Awesome. Appreciate it very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So much thanks to Adam for being here on the show. If you want to find Adam, just look him up on Facebook, and we will post links for areas that you can give and donate, whether you want to give directly to Adam through his Amazon wish list for products that he drives down, seems like almost every day, or if you want to give to, believe it was Praying Pelican Ministries also, to be able to help out with the efforts that are going on down there in Tijuana and the surrounding areas. So, thank you so much for being a part of this show this hour. And I have almost made it through the show. I've almost made it through the show being relatively positive and good. And here's what I want to give you. I'm going to give you here at the end of the show. This is just a wonderful article for all of you out there, for all of you Christians out there that experience, well, what Pastor Matt Chandler is calling the Christmas blues. And this article comes from the veritable puff piece of fake progressiveness in the Christian world, Relevant magazine and website. Oh, and Matt wrote an article for them, so you know it's going to be good. And he goes to say this, and I love this. in a completely snarky way when I say love this. He says this, despite all the music, decoration, and parties, this is actually a difficult season for many. People often get the Christmas blues, finding the holidays to be a time when they're particularly vulnerable to depression. And then there's the Christmas hangover. It's not the one caused by too much eggnog. It's the one that hits after the presents are open, the stockings are empty, and the meal is over. We find ourselves thinking, is this it? You're right, Matt, because, Jesus intended for us to go and sell out and buy tons of crap for his birthday that all the crap that we're buying really has nothing to do with him. And even the biblical basis for the way that we celebrate Christianity is severely iffy at best. And that's even on a good day. But Matt continues to unpack this little sad time, this little sad womp womp emoji time. He says the Christmas blues and the Christmas hangover come together when unbridled expectations meets reality. When we build up an expectation for something that it can't possibly meet. We have plenty of help building these expectations from social media, TV commercials, and department stores. They paint a picture that our loneliness will be turned into joy, and that gift we want so badly will ultimately satisfy. But oh no! When this happens, what are Christians to do when the joy fades? And Matt goes on to give us several different ways that we as the church can see this as an opportunity. Oh, Matt, what is it? What could we be doing? Oh, well, his one list, begin praying for those in your life that are far from God and don't know the Lord. Oh, begin to pray for them in this Christmas season because the rest of the year, screw it, don't pray for people. But this Christmas season, we really need to be praying because what is the Christmas season anyways besides a marketing tool? I'm sorry. Continue on, Matt. Oh, and what we need to also do is make specific plans to see some of these people that may have the Christian scaries or the Christian saddies in the days leading up to Christmas. Maybe you could even invite your friends over to a party or to a dinner. Or guess what? Maybe you could even invite them to church. Oh, that'll fix it. Because when we're trying to counter a season of big productions that have hollow meanings, what better place to take them to than church? Oh, but his third one is great. Oh, we need to practice sharing the gospel aloud and then writing it out. Oh my gosh. We need to meditate on some passages. And honestly, when we talk about this, really how you should practice, do it in front of a mirror. He didn't say that, but I'm just picturing this. How you're going to do this. Yes, because we don't want to have the Christmas saddies. That's such a horrible thing, and that's so not what Jesus' birth is about. It's about happiness. It's about receiving. It's about giving. It's about me. But where does Jesus fit into this? I don't really know. So thanks, Matt Chandler, for turning this into a marketing opportunity for churches, because nobody wants the Christmas saddies and the Christmas blues and the Christmas hangovers, unless they're real hangovers. Because I'm going to tell you, when I mentioned the LifeWay, I was going good earlier, and I'm sorry, just the wheels are coming off this. When I talked earlier in the show about that, the LifeWay poll asking people about whether or not you drink or not. Do Protestants drink? Really, when we begin to see those numbers there, what it tells me, first and foremost, is that Christians know how to lie. That's in all honesty, that is one great Christian tenet. You learn how to fake it to act like you're holy, and you know how to answer questions like this. And the question is always, I never drink. Never! Because Jesus would have never touched this stuff or even turned water into wine? And when he did it, the folks at the party said it was really good stuff. I'm not quite sure how to reconcile this, but Matt, I'm pretty sure you've already sold your soul and you know how to do it quite well. So as we step into this, since he's already brought it up and I brought it up that he brought it up, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. This whole Christmas season, if it matters at all to anybody, aside from just getting a ton of crap and also going into a ton of debt. If anybody wants to read the Christmas story for how it should be read, and its origins in the Bible. It should remind us that A, Jesus was a refugee that was fleeing. B, that Jesus was poor and marginalized under the face of a Roman Empire, under the shadows of that empire. So when we begin to talk about this and say, what would Jesus do in this season? Jesus would go and care for those that need help. Jesus would say, the season is not about you. It's not about getting the most stuff. It's about what you can give to others. And I don't mean in gift card form. I mean it in the form of how you can give of yourself to be able to help others that are serving, that need to be served in your community. Just like we'd heard from Adam earlier in the show, when Adam was giving a plea to be able to get off your butt, stop sitting on your hands and go and do something. Now, going and helping down on the southern border was what Adam felt called to do. But as we begin to look around in this season, where are the people in your community that are hurting? Where are those that are being marginalized and forgotten? Where do you need to go and help? Where can you offer help? And the beginnings of that journey start with just getting up and going and just trying to help. So as we end this broadcast, just a reminder that you can catch us on podcast at www.snarkyfaith.com, where the links to the show will be if you want to give and help out there. So as I end the show, I send you off with the holiest amount of grace and peace and snark. Be well. I'll be back again next week. Peace.
WCOM is listener-supported community radio, and Snarky Faith is only possible through our sponsors. Lumen, a spiritual community of seekers, sojourners, question-askers, doubters, and skeptics, is a collective of fellow travelers that embrace the truth that all of life is sacred, hope is real, and tomorrow can be a better day than today. All are welcome. You can find more information at www.lumencommunities.com.